Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 11 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. A few days ago, when I was using the Zygarde team, I ran into a really interesting DIALGA team, and turns out that this was a high-ranking team built by a Japanese player, who I've linked down in the description below, and they're actually kind enough to post a team report for this as well as a rento code. So I wanted to feature it on the channel just because it's been a while since we've used DIALGA, and these sets here are definitely interesting. This, to me, is really like a best-of-one oriented team, and it has a lot of tricks up its sleeves, starting with Quick Claw on the Ditto. You've also got Choice Scarf Fisher Stone Edge on Landorus, Scope Lens Crit Kiss with Fire Blast, meaning you have a stronger Max Flare from it, Trace Porygon 2 with Recover Foul Play, Ally Switch, and Trick Room, Focus Sash Gothitelle with a lot of speed investment, Hypnosis and Ally Switch, and then Life Orb Dialga with 4 attacks. Now, Life Orb Dialga is really interesting because it gets access to some really powerful attacks. And normally when you use max moves, right, they just turn into base 130, but Dialga has some of these really powerful attacks that actually allow its max moves to be even stronger. Roar of Time actually turns into a base 150 max move rather than 130, and that little bit of extra damage output, especially when you combine it with Helping Hand from Gothitelle, can really go a long way. So the idea is that you just use Dialga and Gothitelle to often nuke things, right? You trap things in with Gothitelle, and then against whatever's not going to Dynamax, you can just fake out and then max move to one-shot immediately. Landorus in the back is nice for Intimidate support, and Scarf Stone Edge specifically is a tech that you're going to want to use against Sun teams, specifically like Charizard, for example, because it can even one-shot Dynamax Charizard, which is pretty cool. So that's one really neat option. Fisher is also one of those like get out of jail cards where sometimes you just don't have anything better to go for, right? And against things that like really want to stall out but can't deal very much damage in a Landorus, well, Fisher can give you, just the possibility of one-shotting something rather than doing no damage to it whatsoever. So, Dialga, like, Gothitelle plus all of these Pokemon are pretty effective leads, especially Dialga, Togekiss, and Landorus, and Helping Hand support's really nice as well. Porygon's just nice for foul play damage output. Crit Kiss is a set, we've used a lot of before. It's one that's not as popular these days. Togekiss in general in this format's interesting just because it's obviously quite weak into Zacian. But the cool thing about this Togekiss is, for example, you can go with Gothitelle plus Togekiss and just fake out Zacian. Can't Dynamax, and so it can't block the fake out. And then Togekiss can just max Airstream, and then you can follow that up with the Max Flare, just KO Zacian the next turn. So offensive Crit Kiss is actually quite powerful into Zacian specifically if you're able to get a speed boost. You just have to be careful about making sure they don't one-shot you with Behemoth Blade before you're able to, either outspeed them or just KO them immediately. And then finally, Quick Claw Ditto. Quick Claw Ditto is an interesting one. It's, a item that makes sense on Ditto because basically with Ditto you're always just going to copy your opponent's sets, and the Scarf is already committed on Landorus, so you don't want to use Scarf on Ditto here. And so, there are plenty of items you can use. Sash is already taken on Gothitelle here as well. And so Quick Claw makes sense because it essentially gives you a slightly optimal edge in like winning speed ties, right? So you're obviously going to copy Pokemon stats and just copy their speed, but with Quick Claw, it can just give you the edge and potentially outspeed them more than just 50% of the time thanks to the small chance of Quick Claw activating. So it's a fun item. It's not one that's like super consistent, nor should you ever rely on it, but it's one where it's just like, okay, there are no like significantly better items to use on Ditto here, so might as well just slap it on. So yeah, like I said, I think this team really has a lot of fun tricks for best of one, right? Like you've got the Stone Edge on the Landers, you've got the Quick Claw on the Ditto, 4 offense attack Dialga without Protect, Fire Blast on Togekiss, and then the dual ally switch on Porygon 2 and Gothitelle. And so like the element of surprise is one that I think favors this team significantly, but it's one that I think just, has a pretty interesting playstyle and just some sets that we haven't used before. And so looking forward to playing this one. Thanks so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show support by leaving a like in the video. I'd really appreciate it. And question of the day, kind of a random one, but I'm curious if you could just change one type matchup. For example, remove a resistance or make one move or type super effective against another. What would that be and why? Let me know in the comment section below, and let's get started. First game of the day, it's actually up against rank number 12. Very cool. And they've got Grimmsnarl, Charizard, Landorus, Urshifu, Torkoal, and Zacian. So we've got Scarf Landorus on our end. Gothitelle can obviously trap things in. Probably max the Dialga here. Togekiss is slightly intriguing, actually, because, like, one thing we can go with is actually... Like, we can go Gothitelle plus Togekiss, and if they lead Zacian, fake out into max Airstream, and then just max Flare turn 2. I actually don't think that's a terrible option. Alternatively, we don't have to Dynamax. We could also Fire Blast. Dialga's not a bad max option, but I'm mainly nervous about like Landorus as well as Torkoal plus Charizard as a lead. I guess Torkoal plus Charizard is still an issue, right? But if I lead Togekiss, because I can just get wrecked by a Max Flare, or G-Max Wildfire, I should say. Okay, change of plans then. What if we went with Gothitelle plus Landorus? With Togekiss and Dialga in the back? It does feel a little bit weird to not bring Ditto, I have to say. Maybe we don't need to trap them in, actually. Okay. I know Gothitelle is pretty important to this team, but I'm actually going to try Landorus plus Togekiss. The idea here is that Togekiss is a good max option, and Choice Scarf Landorus outspeeds everything on their team. We don't necessarily have to max the Togekiss. I really wanted to bring Ditto because they have Zacian, and so copying their Zacian is really valuable. And then, yeah, like Dialga is probably our best max option, but we could totally max Togekiss as well. And they are going to go with Charizard and Torkoal. Okay. Yeah, this lead makes the most sense from their end by far, because you completely demolish Gothitelle, right? Like, I can't really do anything with Gothitelle other than maybe, like, just go for a Hypnosis. So, turn 1, if you're my opponent, this is already interesting. Do you bother going for the G-Max Wildfire onto the Landorus slot? Do you switch out? Because it's pretty easy for me to click Stone Edge right now into Charizard. Obviously, the only scary thing is that we can miss. But I think Stone Edge into a max Airstream here. It's pretty powerful. I'm going to target the Torkoal slot. The reason I'm splitting it here just is because I could see Charizard like even max guarding or switching out. I guess max guarding doesn't really make too much sense here, but I think with Stone Edge, we have a very, very strong turn 1 against Charizard. And the question is whether or not we hit it. Unfortunately, Stone Edge is not the most reliable of options, as I'm sure you've seen or before. So we'll see. Okay, so Charizard is going to max. I mean, this turn 1 I think could literally just win us the game if we hit Stone Edge. If we miss, things get a lot dicier. For that reason, I actually could have targeted Charizard with the max Airstream instead. I'm just thinking from my opponent's perspective, you would want to just Wildfire into Landorus. But I could see them targeting Togekiss, saying, okay, well, I can get Wildfire up, I can deal with Landorus with a Zacian in the back, and you're like, maybe they're thinking like they're not going to one-shot an AV Landorus anyway, so might as well just one-shot Togekiss. Alright, we hit the Stone Edge, though. Beautiful. Nice. Yeah, I think that just wins us the game. Even if we don't one-shot the Torkoal here, my opponent just doesn't have a Dynamax to play with now, and we outspeed. We just one-shot both Pokemon. That was a crit. Nice. Okay. I don't know if they survived that without the crit. Maybe they do, but at best you get a Burning Jealousy or a Yawn Off, and neither of those are really scary. Torkoal's honestly kind of a sitting duck for my opponent, so yeah, that's just game over on turn 1. And, you know, this highlights how, like, Pokemon can be won, like, super quickly, right? Now, granted, the game's not, like, technically over, but we should be in such a commanding position. I don't see how my opponent comes back. Because all we have to do is withdraw Landorus out for Scarf Earthquake in this endgame, and then we can just max Flare their Zacian. They kindly set up the Sun for us, which makes it even easier. So I'm going to bring in Dialga for this slot, and then just go for a Flare into Zacian. I just don't really see how my opponent can come back from this. But you never want to throw the game away, right? So you always want to still make the most optimal play. The reason I'm withdrawing Landorus there is because Stone Edge could miss. Otherwise, one play we could go for is like doubling up onto the Urshifu slot. But we should know that we're never in much danger on from Urshifu, right? Urshifu just does not scare me very much, and yeah, that's just another one-hit KO. That one was a crit. The sun was up, so I honestly don't know if that one mattered. Once again, this is Crit Kiss, right? So, and they're going to go for Wicked Blow. Yeah, so this game will just end in 3 turns, essentially. But the thing is, even if the... Let's say Zacian survives there, they one-shot Togekiss, and they read the Landorus and close combated it, then I would just get a free switch into my Landorus and my Zacian, and, or Ditto, and then the Ditto would copy them, right? Actually, is there a chance they come back from that if they actually... I just didn't think they'd ever survive a Max Flare from Togekiss in the sun. Like, that was the main thing. But, I don't know, if they have Max Bulk, maybe. Anyway, we can just go for an Earth Power now and a Max Airstream. So, yeah, I think this game just highlights how in Best of 1, sometimes a single move and item choice can win you a game, right? Like, Landorus T here just eliminated my opponent's Dynamax Pokemon, one-shot them before they could move, so they had no Dynamax to play with. that's just the reality of best of one sometimes, right? Like, and that's why in team building, every single move and every single item choice can give you a major advantage, right? Because it is very hard to predict Choice Scarf Stone Edge in this format. It's just not very common from Landorus T. And so that's something you can do in the team building process to give you a significant edge in best of one play. And this team has a ton of tricks up its sleeve, right? Whether it be the Stone Edge Scarf, Landorus with Fisher, the Quick Claw on the Ditto, double ally switch on Gothitelle, and the Porygon 2, and then very, very offensive Life Orb Dialga. So, yeah. It's funny because Scarf Landorus is obviously really common way back in the day. In this format, not as much just because it's such a good Dynamax option. Like, you want to use an item like Assault Vest or like Lumberry or Life Orb, for example. But Scarf Landorus did exactly what I needed to do in that game, which was one-shot the Charizard. So, yeah, let's just keep it going. I wanted to quickly also just look at the damage calcs from the last game, mainly because I was curious whether or not those critical hits against Zacian and Torkoal really mattered. So against the Zacian, it definitely did not make a difference. As you can see, Max Flare, which is slightly stronger because it's coming from Fire Blast, not Flamethrower, against even max HP Force Speed F Zacian in Sun is always a guaranteed KO, and that's not even factoring in a critical hit, right? And so I think we're always knocking out Zacian there, and Urshifu just really couldn't do anything to threaten Togekiss at all. So yeah, Togekiss was just in such a fantastic position, and it's thanks to my opponent setting up the Sun for it early on. Now, the other interesting one is obviously Torkoal, which we were able to crit with the Max Airstream on turn 1. And as you can see, Modest Max against Max HP Force Speed F Torkoal only has a 1/8 chance to one-shot, not factoring in the critical hit. So when you factor in the chance that we crit half the time and we always KO with the critical hit, then it's a roll that's slightly in our favor. Now, the one thing to note is that Torkoal surviving there actually isn't too bad for us. The only thing they could do that really scares me there is Yawn, but even if they clicked Yawn into Togekiss on turn 1 after surviving, turn 2, I think I would always just switch my Landorus out into the Ditto to copy their Torkoal. Just because as I copy their Torkoal, that's really good into their Zacian in the late game, right? So I imagine they would bring out Zacian, probably just protect the Zacian. I would probably Max Flare into the Zacian as it protects, switch Landorus out into Ditto to copy their Torkoal, and then play the game from there. Togekiss falling asleep at that point is fine because I already have, had a really standout turn 1, and then we can use both Landorus and Dialga in the end game as well. However, it wouldn't have been kind of like a guaranteed game, unlike us getting the crit. So I'm not sure what Torkoal was going for there, but I think a Yawn into Togekiss and a Wildfire from Charizard into the Landorus slot certainly makes some sense. So even in the worst case scenario of them surviving and getting Yawn off into Togekiss, I think just because we knock out Charizard on turn 1, we're in a really commanding position. So yeah, let's go into game 2. Next game here, and it's a Necrozma Dusk main team. Okay, this team seems really bulky, which is scary. I went up against that really wild Necrozma set a couple of episodes ago that had like Morning Sun and Dragon Dance. I don't think that's coming our way here, but just something to be aware of after losing against it a while back. Could be Self-Shadow Sneak Dusclops into Policy Necrozma. That makes some sense. Dialga does have Max Quake into it. We also have Foul Play on Porygon here, right? So that's actually pretty valuable into Necrozma as well as Landorus. I don't think we want to max Togekiss here. Max Alecki is something to respect from my opponent's end as well, but I don't think it's super strong into us. I'm mainly trying to think who I drop. Like, I don't think I want to bring Togekiss, so I can eliminate that from the equation. But then Landorus is kind of awkward, right? Because I can't really spam Earthquake very easily. I think Gothitelle plus Dialga is always decently strong, and then I'll go with Porygon and Ditto in the back. The fun thing here is, let's say they end up leading Landorus and they want to Max Quake into Dialga. I could switch one of my Pokemon out, depending on who's across from the Landorus, and then use it to copy their Landorus and intimidate them. And if it's the Dialga slot, even better. So, we'll see. I mean, I think Necrozma is obviously a really strong threat from their end. They are going to lead Dusclops plus Necrozma. Okay. So, what do you do on turn 1? The other awkward thing here is Self-Shadow Sneak. Like, let's say I switch out into Ditto on turn 1. If I switch out into Ditto, I don't copy their boosts immediately. I can just go for a Helping Hand plus a base 150 max Wormwind. What am I nervous about? Like Self-Shadow Sneak and then Necrozma one-shots Dialga, probably? That is rather scary. I have Hypnosis. I could go for that. I could also Helping Hand max. Quaking into Necrozma is actually an interesting option here, I think. I don't know if it's the best one, though. Like, I guess my main question here is, can Necrozma one-shot my Dialga? What is its moveset? I could have also gone for Helping Hand Steel Spike. I think Helping Hand plus Wormwind onto Dusclops was probably the best play there, but... I don't know. Hypnosis would be really good if we hit, but if we missed, it would be like an obvious disaster. I just don't think Helping Hand plus Quake knocks out a Dynamax Necrozma, especially with its ability. But the thing is, even if we don't KO, it grants us a free switch-in, right? So we can go into Porygon 2. And then my question is, how fast is Necrozma? Because then I could actually just Helping Hand and Foul Play the Necrozma, which is pretty interesting. The idea here is I really did not want to just eliminate Dusclops and then lose Dialga and get one-shot by the Necrozma. Yeah, so it is Self-Shadow Sneak. Okay, not much of a surprise there. This is where, like, yeah, if I gamble with Hypnosis turn 1, like, I could have gone, I don't know, Wormwind into Dusclops or Steel Spike and then Hypnosis into Necrozma. That would put them in a really, really tricky position. Okay, so here's Helping Hand, Max Quake. Ooh, okay. I mean, it does okay damage, but it's not enough to KO, though I don't think we were expecting a knockout there anyway. So, let's see if Necrozma can one-shot us right now. I expect a Quake into our Dialga? Yeah. I also could have gone for Ally Switch there, which would have been pretty interesting. Oh, that does not do very much damage, though. Wow, okay. I'll gladly take that. I was expecting a one-hit KO for sure there. Turn 2 is interesting now, because you could obviously Max Guard the Necrozma. You could Max Guard Necrozma, then try to set up Trick Room. Does another Max Quake KO Necrozma here? Because if so, what I can do is just Quake Necrozma and Hypnosis into Dusclops. I almost want to switch out, though, to copy their Necrozma. I think I'm down for that. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to Max Quake Necrozma and switch out so I get their boosts. I do think Max Guard plus Trick Room here does make some sense from their end. So let's see if they go for that. But now I've copied a pretty strong Necrozma. I get all of their stat boost as well. And they don't Max Guard. Okay. Does Max Quake KO here without Helping Hand? I would think so. Oh, it doesn't. That's a problem. Okay. Well, I don't love seeing that, but that's okay. Okay, they're gonna go for another Max Quake of their own. Yep, probably into Dialga again. Yep. But that's fine. I think, like, the fact we got to copy the Necrozma itself is really good. And I don't really care for what Dusclops goes for here. If you Trick Room will be interesting. I can obviously just go out into my Porygon 2 now. But I feel like I could have gotten more value out of Dialga in this game. If I knew we were just going to survive turn 1 as easily as we did, then it would have been a lot smarter to just have, okay, they just go for Nightshade. Cool. How fast is this Porygon again? Oh, it's min speed. I'm just trying to think about how, like, whether not knocking out the Necrozma there is a bummer, right? And I don't want to rely on a speed tie. Does Fake Out KO Necrozma there? I don't think so. I really don't. Oh, and it's Earth Power. That's why. Okay, so it's a mixed set. That is interesting. Is there any way I can play around? I mean, I could always Ally Switch, right? If there's any time to Ally Switch, it's probably here. Earth Power. I just don't think, like, Fake Out actually KOs the Necrozma here. I guess I could also Hypnosis, but... The thing is, like, Ally Switch is nice because even if we lose the speed tie, we're still in an okay spot. If we win the speed tie, we're in a fantastic position, right? And I just doubt that they target the Gothitelle slot. And we do end up winning the speed tie. Okay, nice. Yeah, I really thought Max Quake would KO, though. So I could have stayed in with the Gothitelle then, and then just gone for, like, a Helping Hand and just knocked out the Necrozma. But the idea of copying the boost sounded kind of nice to me. And they were going to Trick Room. Okay. What do you bring in now? Incineroar makes sense to me, especially if you have Darkest Lariat on it. Togekiss. Okay. If you're not Crit Kiss here, and you don't crit a fire type attack onto Ditto, you're in a lot of trouble. Now's a good time to go for Hypnosis, I think. And I'll just Sunsteel Strike into Togekiss. This is a fun thing about Ditto, right? It gives you so much flexibility in a game. It can be kind of hard to use, but that's also one of the reasons I didn't want to just knock out the Necrozma immediately, because I felt like we could get value out of copying it. Although the Nightshade is really valuable from Dusclops, right? Because it ignores the stat boosts, right? And we get Quick Claw. Oh my goodness. No way. Well, now I really don't think my opponent can win. Yeah. Obviously, 2 back-to-back lucky turns. As we not only win the speed tie between our Necrozmas, but we also manage to... And Hypnosis hits, just insult to injury here. This team definitely like has some factors that are not very consistent, like Quick Claw and Hypnosis. They're not things you want to rely on, but they're things that can like just turn the tides into your favor, right? Especially if you're in a bad position. And their last one's a Lecky. Okay, cool. If they're Focus Sash Lecky, well, I don't think they're ever really KOing Porygon in this endgame, right? And so I don't really have any value out of Gothitelle at this point anyway, so I don't mind switching out into Porygon so I can reset Fake Out and then just Earth Power into Regieleki. Yeah, I was expecting physical Max Quake from Necrozma. I think if I were to replay turn 1, I like Helping Hand Wormwind more into the Dusclops slot. Like, it ended up working out. But I don't know if, like, my line of play was super good, especially because, like, I did get a little bit lucky winning the speed tie between the Necrozmas. Now, speed ties are interesting, right? Because with Quick Claw, it's slightly more in your favor, but it's only slightly, you know, more in your favor, so it's not something you want to rely on ever. It's basically still a coin flip. And had we lost that, I guess, like, Gothitelle probably would have brought down to 1 HP. We still would have knocked their Necrozma out. And, like, let's say they actually targeted the Gothitelle slot, then our Necrozma maybe just faints, and then we just lose the game. So... that turn was a little bit scary. Maybe you could have just got... well, no, Hypnosis wouldn't have done anything for us because they were going to outspeed us under Trick Room anyway. No, was Trick Room up yet? They didn't set up Trick Room yet, but... oh, okay, then that was actually a reason I guess maybe click Hypnosis. Because then it's like a 60% chance to shut them down in addition to potentially winning a speed tie plus Quick Claw. So then, yeah, maybe that's actually the better play. Because I actually think with Ally Switch, I could just hard lose the game if they targeted the... Gothitelle slot, and then my Ditto just gets KO there, because then I have no offense in the end game. So that's something interesting to think about. I just really thought turn 2 the Necrozma would have fainted, and so that not fainting was surprising, and I really wish we could have seen what Togekiss was going for. Because if it weren't Crit Kiss, then we had, you know, the +2 special defense on Necrozma, so we were in a pretty good spot. And with our last one being a Lecky, I think like Porygon 2 plus Gothitelle was in a pretty good position to close out the game as well. But this team does rely very heavily on its main max options for damage, and like I used 2 turns of max Dialga just to deal like 95% of damage onto Necrozma. Not sure that's super worth, so yeah. But I guess us max quaking actually saved us because it was actually special Earth Power in the end from them, which I think is pretty interesting. So yeah, definitely some fortunate RNG in this one, but you know that's what this team does. It has some it has some high variance attacks, but when it goes your way, it can really snowball very quickly. So yeah. Let's just look for another one. Third match here, and it's a Giratina O team. Okay, I'm honestly rooting for my opponent. Like, this is such a cool team. Do we ever use Giratina O? I don't think so. We used regular Giratina, right? Yeah, I'm just thinking Series 8/11. I don't remember, but I actually don't think so. So that's pretty cool. Dialga slaps here. Max Togekiss isn't bad either, though, especially because it can crit through screens from Grimmsnarl, which is quite nice. Foul Play P2. How good is that? Not really that good. I don't think Landorus makes that much sense here. I mean, I'm down for Gothitelle plus Dialga. Togekiss Ditto. Togekiss is pretty valuable here even without Dynamax, right? Because I can just Dazzling everything. They don't have great Fairy resistances. I guess, like, the Charizard's the interesting part of their team because they don't have great, like, natural ways to set up the Sun, right? There's no Torkoal, there's no Groudon. So part of me wants to bring the Scarflanders just to kind of cheese and Stone Edge shit, but I don't think we get nearly as much value here. And like them not having a Torkoal makes Charizard less scary, so I'm down for the Gothitelle Dialga lead. I think Dialga is very good here, just because it one-shots a lot of Pokemon, even if they Dynamax. But you have to be very careful about using this team because there's not very much offense. Like, for example, Gothitelle has no offense. Ditto is very variable based off what you're copying. Scarflander's T is a weird one where it's like it's only going to be there often for like 1 or 2 big attacks, basically. We're going to go with Grimmsnarl and Suicune. Okay, this is a pretty effective lead by them. I can't fake out Suicune thanks to Inner Focus. Now, what I could do is like Helping Hand plus Wyrmwind to KO Suicune. So the question here is, do I really mind if Tailwind goes up? Because I really don't want either screens to go up, right? Like, Grimmsnarl here could just Light Screen, and so that would kind of invalidate the Helping Hand. So I think here I'd rather just KO Grimmsnarl turn 1 with a Fake Out into a Steel Spike. That gives me a defense boost, which is valuable. I mean, Suicune could Snarl here as well. Ooh, did I have a better lead into this? Cricus, I guess, as the Dynamax option is pretty good, right? Because it can just crit through screens anyway. But if we don't crit Suicune, then, like, I don't even know if a Helping Hand Max Airstream crit onto Suicune gets a knockout, truthfully. So I'd rather just eliminate the screens, like the possibility of screens turn 1. If Grimmsnarl somehow has a Protect here, that would be a disaster. But they don't. Yeah, this is the nice thing of the Gothitelle lead. It traps things in. Like, for example, like a lot of Pokemon like Rillaboom, Insing, Grimmsnarl. Very occasionally they'll have Protect. Protect is decently common, actually, I'd say, on things like Rillaboom or Insing. Like, not so much Insing, maybe more Rillaboom. But Grimmsnarl is like very, very rarely carry it, so you can just like snipe things off like this, and then, yeah, allow them to not get anything off, essentially. So it should be Snarl or Tailwind here, right? Okay, Calm Mind. Calm Mind, Calm Mind, Calm Mind. Well, I have Ditto, so I can always copy your boosts at any point. That's kind of fun. I think that's probably the best option for us to run into, truthfully. Right? Because you're not really pressuring me with any offense on this next turn of the game. They just bring out Moltres. Moltres. Okay, well with this, I can go for Helping Hand and Max Hailstorm. I don't really care about Suicune Calm Minding right now because you're not going to deal much damage, right? Like, Suicune's moveset is normally, you know, Scald, Ice Beam. It just doesn't have that much offense to scare Dialga, right? Maybe you have Snarl, for example, but even if you Calm Mind and it gets like +3, like its damage output is not really relevant into Dialga until Dynamax ends, essentially. Like, that's how I'm thinking about it. So we're gonna go for Helping Hand. I don't know if Helping Hand Life Orb Hailstorm KOs here. We're faster, which can be good unless they survive in their weakness policy. That would be a disaster. They do survive. Okay. Are you Policied here? Is my first question. Because I just activated Berserk. Uh-oh. They are. I could have gone for Wyrmwind, I suppose. Helping Hand plus Max Wyrmwind instead. Maybe that was the better play. They're going to go for Max Darkness. Doesn't even... Oh, they didn't even target Dialga. Wow. That's amazing for us. But they're probably going to Tailwind now, right? I don't have any priority, but I do have Togekiss. But unfortunately with Togekiss, I don't have Redirection. And their last Pokemon is going to be Giratina O, for sure. Okay, Tailwind does go up. So it's Tailwind, Calm Mind, probably Scalds, and then Ice Beam / Icy Wind. Probably Ice Beam. Alright, nice turn. Not Tailwinding there. Actually, it was really smart. Because they didn't need to Tailwind turn 1, because like in doing so, because they were faster than me, they actually baited me into Hailstorming them, thus activating Weakness Policy. Which was very, very smart. Bringing out Ditto right now does not really feel like the play. Okay, I can just bring out Togekiss, but the thing with Togekiss here this next turn... Okay, because we know our opponent's last Pokemon's going to be the Giratina, right? So now if you're my opponent, what do you do with Galarian Moltres, right? Do you go for a Max Airstream? Because you would expect Follow Me from Togekiss unless you've seen this team and you know it doesn't have Follow Me. So what I could do, for example, is actually protect in this position. I guess the other question is whether or not a +3 Max Darkness into a -1 Spadef Dialga KOs. You would think so. The alternative play is to just say, okay, well, I can like trade Pokemon here, essentially. But I do fear that I get too far behind if I do that. So, if they go for the Max Darkness here onto Moltres, kudos, great play. I went for Steel Spike. It doesn't really make a difference there, I don't think. Yeah, if they go for Darkness onto the Dialga with Moltres. Oh, really well done. Nicely done. Okay. I wonder if they've seen this team or they just like, yeah, basically said, I don't really care if you, like, I don't think you're going to go for a Follow Me. But I think that will win them the game. So, great play. If I had Follow Me there, I think I would just go for the safe Follow Me option. Okay, they do Ice Beam into Togekiss though, so it's actually not that bad. Then, okay, that play also checks out then, right? Because you're saying, okay, if Togekiss goes for Follow Me, then, I'll just KO you with the Max Darkness Ice Beam combination. And if you don't go for Follow Me, then they were thinking maybe Max Darkness would just KO Dialga. Now, one play you could go for there is actually doubling up, but I think their play actually makes a lot of sense there. But we're very fortunate in that Dialga is so bulky, you can still take that, which is so impressive. But I think this endgame might still favor my opponent a little bit more, since Dialga ends up fainting from heal anyway. Now, what's interesting is Ditto's going to come out, it's going to copy their Giratina O. We're going to get to see its moveset, which is really valuable, but the problem here is that Togekiss is probably just going to get wrecked by an Ice Beam. This Calm Mind Suicune is a big nuisance. Oh, it's Landorus. Okay, that actually should just let my opponent win. Well done. They didn't even bring Giratina. But I think the main mistake I made in this game was just activating the policy on Galarian Moltres. I got a little bit greedy thinking Helping Hand plus Hailstorm would KO, and unfortunately we just missed out on the knockout there. Is there any way in which we win now? Like, their Suicune is just entirely too bulky, right? Maybe it was just... I don't like Helping Hand Wormwind, though, if they just set up a... Okay, actually, I think Helping Hand plus Wormwind turn 1's okay, because the thing is, Grimmsnarl doesn't do anything turn 2. So by knocking it out, I just gave my opponent, like, a free switch-in, essentially, which was not very good. Now I'm at -1 Spadef, they're at +1 special attack, which obviously isn't good. And it is the second to last turn of Tailwind. Gleam, what's the Landorus moveset? Okay, so it should be AV Landorus. Hammer Arm's really interesting. I guess I could always... Oh, I can't even flinch Suicune, can I? Yeah, this is looking pretty bad. I was relying on their last one being Giratina and Ditto copying that. Go for Rock Slide. It's actually going to miss the Ditto, but Togekiss is the more important one because they're just looking to KO with that plus Ice Beam. Yep. Really nicely done. This one... Okay, they actually Ice Beam into Landorus. Smart, because they know that their Landorus doesn't have Protect. Although, actually, if anything, this maybe gives us a slight window of opportunity, because I don't think the copied Landorus was ever going to do much damage, but Togekiss here could actually maybe pull something off. Yeah, I mean, those were both crits, and we really didn't do enough, so, yeah, I don't think we can eke this one out. I think I got baited into knocking out Grimmsnarl. I don't think I actually really needed to. I really dislike playing Grimmsnarl in Best of 1, because it has so many strong sets, right? Thunder Wave, Fake Tears, Scary Face... Trick Full Incense, Trick Eject Button, although Trick Eject Button would make no sense here. Protect here. We know they have Rock Slide. I don't think a crit Ice or crit Air Slash would KO their Suicune anyway. They didn't have leftovers. If they didn't have leftovers in this game, could have been interesting, where like maybe Suicune would have been in KO range of a crit, but we needed RNG to win in the end game anyway. It was mainly this Calm Mind. Calm Mind's really cool. Because what is my best damage output against a Calm Mind Suicune with this team? It is to just nuke it with Dialga immediately. I really like the decision to fly there as well. I think that's very smart. There is a win con now, though, in which if Suicune actually faints to a crit Air Slash, I just really don't think it does. And unfortunately, we can't flinch it because of Inner Focus either. Okay, let's say the turn I got hit by Max Darkness with Dialga. What if I switched Dialga out there? Dialga's just so much weaker in the with non-Dynamax, though. Yeah, so we're gonna Air Slash Suicune. But I don't think even if we crit, we KO. But if we do, this actually is a... no crit, unfortunately. That's actually close. Maybe we could have. I don't know. Dazzling did, what, like 40-ish? So... I still don't think it's enough damage, truthfully. They Tailwind, very smart. Yeah, that should win them the game. Now Ice Beam just KOs. So, really nicely done by my opponent. They didn't even bring a restricted Pokemon. And they won pretty convincingly. I think the main thing was just activating that policy on Moltres. I should have just Wormwinded it. Because, like, Helping Hand plus Wormwind into a Hailstorm the next turn should pick up the knockout. I guess the other thing was I was, like, thinking maybe Moltres would just outspeed us there. Not exactly the best assumption for me to make. Okay, so then, like, I don't think Landorus T does anything for me in this matchup. And I don't really think Porygon 2 does very much for us either. So I think we brought the right Pokemon. It's just, like, I could have played this out a lot differently. I could have gone Helping Hand Wormwind and Suicune turn 1. Even if Grimmsnarl goes for a Light Screen, that's still a decent trade-off. Because then on turn 2, Grim can't really do very much. And then what I could do on turn 2 is just knock out the Suicune and then go for Hypnosis on a Grimmsnarl. In my head, I was like, oh, you know... Suicune's pretty passive, it's not going to do very much, so I didn't expect Calm Mind, and with Calm Mind, you know, actually kind of put a timer onto it, especially with Max Darkness combos from that Galarian Moltres. And then, yeah, I shouldn't have activated the policy on Moltres. I think I've just played against so many AV Moltreses recently that in my head I was like, oh, that's probably Assault Vest here. But if it were Assault Vest, you don't really do any damage into Dialga, so then I could have just gone for a Helping Hand, like, Wormwind into the Moltres slot, and then, you know, if you are... I can tell based off that damage output if you're Assault Vest or not, right? So if you're not, then you should be Policy, meaning I can just Hailstorm to finish you off the next turn. The Tailwind, the way they staggered Tailwind was really smart as well, right? Like Calm Mind first because they didn't need to get Tailwind up on the first turn, and nor did they actually want it up on the second turn because they wanted me to activate that Weakness Policy. So, yeah. Anyway, really interesting games here. So, yeah, this team is really fun. We definitely had a good amount of fortune in games 1 and 2, and then game 3, like, my opponent, I think, had a really nice game plan. And I... don't feel like I made major misplays at the moment, but I think activating policy on Moltres, I should have just assumed there was policy there. I got a little bit greedy thinking it wasn't there, and it punished me pretty heavily. So, yeah. That's going to be it for this one, though, so thanks so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all soon. Alright, peace.